by the Sufi mystic Jalaluddin Rumi, as translated by Coleman Barks. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Come, let us worship together. I invite you to rise in body or spirit to join our voices in our opening hymn, number 346, Come Sing a Song With Me. A gentle reminder that our COVID guidelines ask us to mask while singing. In sightless night, terrors draw near. Nameless fears of talon and tooth. Hopelessness yawns before us, an abyss. Alone and unknown in the gloom, longing for the dawn. O sacred flame, blaze forth. Wisdom brought to life. Guide us with the light of hope, the warmth of love, the beacon of purpose and meaning. Because we are all afraid of the dark, let there be light. It is now time for our story for all ages, Where the Wild Things Are, story and pictures by Maurice Sendak. And these are great pictures, so if anybody wants to come closer and take a look, I invite you to do so. That must have been some wild things.
Still there. Still there. Hold, please.
All right, well, we got a little preview of some of these wild things that we're about to meet. The night Max wore his wolf suit, and made mischief of one kind and another, his mother called him Wild Thing, and Max said, "I'll eat you up." So he was sent to bed without eating anything. That very night in Max's room,
Gotcha.
that very night in Max's room, a forest grew and grew. And grew until his ceiling hung with vines, and the walls became the world all around. And an ocean tumbled by with a private boat for Max, and he sailed off through night and day. And in and out of weeks, and almost over a year, to where the wild things are. And when he came to the place where the wild things are, they roared their terrible roars. That was all that noise we were hearing earlier. And gnashed their terrible teeth, and rolled their terrible eyes, and showed their terrible claws. Till Max said, "Be still," and tamed them with the magic trick of staring into all their yellow eyes without blinking once. And they were frightened and called him the most wild thing of all, and made him king of the wild things. And now, cried Max, let the wild rumpus start. Now stop, Max said, and sent the wild things off to bed without their supper. And Max, the king of all wild things, was lonely and wanted to be where someone loved him best of all. Then all around from far away across the world, he smelled good things to eat. So he gave up being king of where the wild things are. But the wild things cried, "Oh, please don't go. We'll eat you up, we love you so." And Max said, "No." The wild things roared their terrible roars and gnashed their terrible teeth, and rolled their terrible eyes and showed their terrible claws. But Max stepped into his private boat and waved goodbye. And sailed back over a year, and in and out of weeks, and through a day. And into the night of his very own room, where he found his supper waiting for him. And it was still hot. Please join me in our response, which is in your order of service, the more we get together.
I don't know what's going on here. Is that off?
This is on. We will wait till use this one? Okay. This one's no good at all? Sure, okay.
Test.
That was screech.
Letting Stephen catch his breath. Please remain seated for our prayer hymn, number 84 in the gray hymnal, How Far Can Reach a Smile. In the silence that follows the spoken prayer and brief guided meditation, you are invited to come forward and light a candle for whatever you hold in your heart. Let us pray with the words of Laura Horton Ludwig. Spirit of life and love, light within and without, mystery from which we have all emerged, within which we live and die, be with us now as we allow ourselves to drop into the silence and stillness at the center of our being. As people of faith, we seek to live in a spirit of love, a spirit of community, justice, and peace. And yet, in so many corners of the world, both far and near, we see divisiveness and hate. If we look deep within ourselves, perhaps we will even find those shadow energies there too. We struggle to respond to the outer world and our inner dramas in ways that manifest love. At times we fear that love will not be strong enough. At times we may question whether love really is at the root of all things in this world with so much struggle and suffering and discord. We may struggle to hold on to faith in love, knowing that if all things come from the one source we proclaim, that source must somehow hold hate as well as love, violence as well as peace, evil as well as good. This is the mystery within which we live and die. These are the questions that haunt our days and nights. And yet we are not without hope. Our struggles and our questions testify to our longing for peace, for love. Our very longings are born out of that mystery we dare to address as spirit of life and love. In the stillness and silence of our own heart, we read the imprint of love, created not by our own will, but planted there for us to discover. By what or whom we cannot know, and yet it is there. A clue, a talisman, a beacon, a light within. May it keep hope alive even as we dwell in mystery. May it guide us all as we seek to act wisely and well. May it help us to be vessels of compassion for one another and for our world. Amen. I now invite us into the silence with an excerpt of Guided Meditation by Stephen W. Dick. Let us pause to listen to the unheard world. Relax into a comfortable position. Breathe in and out very slowly. Quiet yourself and listen to the rhythm of your breath, your heart. Listen to the silence. You will think something. Let it pass into you and through you. You will feel something. Let it pass into you and through you. Spend some time now in the unheard world. We begin to return now to the world we usually hear. As you do, try to bring something of that unheard world with you. And remember to give yourself permission to return to the unheard world. I now light a final candle for the joys and concerns of our friends on Zoom and for all else that we hold in our hearts. The offering that we take each Sunday isn't just a stale habit, Erica Hewitt reminds us. It's an opportunity to recommit to this place and to this people. Our offering is an affirmation, a yes. When we give, we say yes to something we value. With our gifts freely given, may we say yes to the values of our faith. May our offering help us practice Unitarian Universalism within and beyond our congregation as tools to empower our mission, to invite seekers into spiritual community, connect souls in mystery and wonder, and ignite compassion into action. For those of you watching the service online, you may contribute to a virtual offering plate using the donate button on our website or by mailing a check to the church office. I now invite the ushers forward to pass the offering give and all that you do for our church community and its wider concerns, we give thanks. Wisdom based on an article by Barry Boyce, adapted by Remy Singh. Meditation is a practice in exploring our inner landscape. In Maurice Sendak classic, Where the Wild Things Are, young Max's bedroom transforms into a jungle filled with wild things who roar and bare their teeth and menace with their claws. He calms them into stillness, and they become his friends. Having journeyed to where the wild things are, Max returns to his room to enjoy a nice hot meal, a delightful round trip. Everyone who reads the book delights in Max's journey, partially because it's a great metaphor for the mind. The mind is indeed where the wild things are. It contains our fears, our regrets, and insecurities stored from the past. Expectations about who we are and and who we ought to be. Our frustration with people who just aren't fitting into our version of how they ought to be, and our irritation with ourselves in trying to fit people into boxes. Who do we think we are? All that and much more lurks in the mind. Reflections from local yoga instructor Remy Singh. In meditation, we are alone with all the wild things of our minds. Jack Cornfield says, "My mind is like a bad neighborhood. I try not to go there alone." But these wild thoughts are transitory and controllable, like in Max's story. Meditation is not a pill with automatic results. How well it works depends on patience, practice, and commitment. Please rise in body or spirit to join our voices in hymn number 338 in the gray hymnal, "I Seek the Spirit of a Child." Where the Wild Things Are, Maurice Sendak's classic award-winning picture book, is 60 years old this year. And yet this beloved children's story feels timeless. And like many timeless tales, it truly has something for all ages. Meditation practitioner and teacher Barry Boyce suggests that where the wild things are is a great metaphor for the mind. And here's my synopsis about that. Max had gotten out of control, making mischief of one kind and another. When sent to his room, left alone with his thoughts, Max could have resorted to sulking or raging. Instead, Max journeys into his imagination to face the wild things within. Max is able to tame the wild things by staring them in the eyes, seeing them, acknowledging them. Note, however, that it isn't about hypnotizing the wild things into submission. Max doesn't just tame the wild things, he befriends them. As king of the wild things, he lets the wild rumpus start. Max engages fully, being the most wild thing of all. In the land of his imagination, he gets it all out of his system. It may not be lost on you that some of Max's behavior in the land of the wild things parallels his experience in the regular world, as he imagines himself in the parental role, and perhaps finds empathy for his own mother. Eventually, Max gets lonely in the land of the wild things and longs to return to community and connection, and he comes back to the current moment. Barry Boyce says that meditation is a practice in exploring our inner landscape. During today's guided and silent meditation, I wonder what your inner landscape looked like. I wonder whether any wild things came up for you. Any frustrations, any judgments, any fears, regrets, or insecurities? Any expectations of yourself or others? I wonder, did you get stuck on your thoughts and feelings, or were you able to let them pass into you and through you? In the short meditation this morning, you may have found yourself quiet or restless, peaceful or bored, calm or agitated. Whatever your individual experience this morning, the benefits of meditation on the nervous system are widely known. Healthline.com lists the following 12 science-based benefits of meditation. 1, reduces stress. 2, controls anxiety. 3, promotes emotional health. 4, enhances self-awareness. 5, lengthens attention span. 6, may reduce age-related memory loss. 7, can generate kindness. 8, may help fight addictions. 9, improves sleep. 10, helps control pain. 11, can decrease blood pressure. 12, accessible anywhere. And yet, meditation is not a pill with automatic results, to quote my yoga instructor, Remy Singh. How well it works depends on patience, practice, and commitment. Practice includes experimenting with different forms of meditation to discover what works for you and what helps in various circumstances. Visualization is often hard for me, but sometimes it really helps. Sitting in silence is easy for me, and sometimes it doesn't work at all. Walking, meditation, and yoga, which has been called meditation in motion, can really help me when my mind is particularly restless. And sometimes I'm so spun up or exhausted that it's difficult to find any forward momentum. Commitment in meditation means coming back to it even when we're not seeing immediate results. This doesn't just happen automatically in 5 minutes on one Sunday morning. Patience is required not only in seeing long-term results, but also in sticking with an individual session. Max doesn't just jump from his room into the land of the wild things. He sails off through night and day, and in and out of weeks, and almost over a year in his private boat before he gets there. And like in our guided meditation this morning, he makes a similar return voyage. Often it is good to journey inward in solitude, be alone with our thoughts, bravely face up to our fears and frustrations like Max does. So when I first came upon this topic a few months ago, I thought I'd be focusing purely on this angle of meditation and inward focus. I barely acknowledged Jack Kornfield's caution when he said, "My mind is like a bad neighborhood. I try not to go there alone." But since then, my life experiences and memories of the past added another dimension that led me to reflect more about those places in the mind that shouldn't be faced alone. Specifically, I began thinking more about the pervasive thoughts that can come with a mental illness. The fears of anxiety, the fixations of obsessive-compulsive disorder, the restlessness of mania, the despair of depression, the terrors of psychosis. These too are the wild things of the mind for so many people. And even as I use these labels as shorthand, I acknowledge how limiting labels and even the term mental illness can be. The Sufi mystic Rumi encourages us to be a guest house for all emotions. Yes. At the beginning of the summer, David Fu warned us of the dangers of toxic positivity. Yes, it is important to allow a full range of emotions. Let this be a guest house where wild things can come. Entertain them all. And yet we can have limits on our hospitality. We can have boundaries. One of my Facebook friends of friends shared an experience of inviting relatives into her home for a few days or weeks while they got back on their feet. 8 months later, this hospitality had taken its toll. Extracting from the situation proved challenging. I'm reminded of the Far Side comic strip by Gary Larson about overstaying one's welcome. The Arnolds feign death until the Wagners, sensing the sudden awkwardness, are compelled to leave. My Facebook friend did not resort to feigning death. With the help of therapy, however, the friend was able to address the situation, send the guests on their way, and preserve her own well-being. In Max's journey into the mind, he is able to tame his wild things. That speaks to self-control, and there's a lot to be said for that. It may apply much of the time, and meditation can be a great tool for taming the mind. For example, sometimes when I wake with racing thoughts, I can meditate and just stay with the thoughts, acknowledge them, feel the feelings, and let them pass. Sometimes thoughts persist, and I need a mantra, like peace, rest, to settle the thoughts down. Sometimes a thought practice alone doesn't resolve it, and I need to add a restorative yoga pose to calm my nervous system. Sometimes stillness isn't enough, and I need to get out for a walk to dispel the nervous energy. Sometimes my anxieties are so persistent that I schedule an acupuncture treatment to release stuck patterns. Sometimes the stress shows up in my body as a rash and it requires medical treatment. During a time when I was diagnosed with depression, I was prescribed medication for those symptoms. And when the doses got higher and higher and still didn't help, I came full circle to healing practices like acupuncture and Reiki, and spiritual practices like yoga and, yes, meditation. So as I said, meditation can be a great tool for taming the mind, and yet some wild things are not so easily tamed. In the case of an electrochemical imbalance, wild thoughts can include deep breaks from reality, while being extremely real to the person experiencing them. Distracting and frightening thoughts can be persistent and can interfere with the ability to navigate one's life. Some of you know that I grew up with an older brother who was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. Having him in my life, I witnessed the challenges he faced and the multifaceted approach that was required for him to lead a fulfilling life. For those living with a mental illness, a meditation practice alone is likely not going to cut it, even though it can be a great help. In the case of my brother's schizoaffective disorder, all the patience, practice, and commitment in the world was not going to tame those wild things. Medical and therapeutic treatment was required to restore the balance and help the dark, confusing, repetitive thoughts say their farewells. It was not a place to go alone. Even in the book, Where the Wild Things Are, Max does not journey in isolation. Remember that when he returns to his very own room, he finds his supper waiting for him. And it is still hot. And so I say, let the wild things come. Invite them in. Let them have their say. Acknowledge them. Seek help when needed. Then let them be on their way. May it be so, and amen. Please rise in body or spirit, and likely both, for hymn number 1024 in the teal hymnal, When the Spirit Says Do. bad things come, invite them in. Let them have their say. Acknowledge them, seek help when needed. Then let them be on their way. Go in peace and honor.